Oh, here's a bit of a mess. Oh well, UFC 134 time. First card in Brazil. Of course, that's a big deal. Kind of. First fight we have Yuji Boyne versus Ian Loveland. A lot of people making apologies for underestimating Loveland. Uh, I don't. Your featherweight career stunk, and I'm happy you moved down to bantamweight. He'll take Yuji Boyne pretty easily. Better wrestler, better ground game, durable enough that Jaboyne's not going to knock him out on the feet very easily. Jaboyne's takedown defense is pretty terrible. His ground game is pretty terrible. Um, First round submission. Felipe Arantes versus Yuri Alcantara, taking Alcantara via TKO in the second round. Why? I think Alcantara is just kind of better at everything than Arantes. I haven't seen a lot of Arantes, admittedly, but Alcantara is a guy who I think really can do some things, and this is a good chance for him to just highlight reel it a little bit, make this fight look easy. Eric Silva versus Luis Ramos. Luis Ramos is another guy who I didn't find a lot of. What I did find, though, this kind of is similar to the other fight in that I think Eric Silva is a better version of what Lee Ramos brings. Neither guy seems to have particularly strong wrestling. They're both Brazilians. They both are quite good on the ground. They're both pretty competent on the feet, but I see Silva G that notch higher than Ramos wherever this fight goes. Probably taking a unanimous decision victory. Trying to keep him shorter this time around. Rafael Sancal versus Johnny Eduardo. I believe this is on Sancal's first fight at 135. I could be mistaken. Nope, it is. It is. I am correct. Johnny Eduardo is a guy who has been fighting for a really long time. Dude was active in the Vale Tudo in the 90s. Not that old, actually, at 33 years old. But I think a Sun Cow is the better fighter. If his weight cut went well, Eduardo is the type of guy who hasn't beaten anyone. Like you look at his roster, you look at his resume, and the fighters that jump out at you are the ones that beat him, such as the biggest names, of course, Takanori Gomi. A Sun Cow, probably a better wrestler, probably better on the ground, needs to not stand like he did against Eric Koch, which was the most retarded strategy I've ever seen from him. Was trying to stand with a guy who's much better on the feet. I think Eduardo is better on the feet, I think, than a Suncow because I've never been terribly impressed with a Suncow on the feet. But I see him being smart enough to take this down. Being in Brazil, I don't think there's going to be the same stigma, the booing for the ground game that you get in America sometimes. I think a Suncow takes him down. I think he goes to unanimous decision because Eduardo is not exactly the easiest guy in the world to finish. Paulo Thiago versus Dave Mitchell. Two ground guys going at it. Going with Thiago, I just think that Mitchell is overhyped. I see as being kind of similar to the Jacob Volkman fight in that you have a guy who might have a wrestling advantage over Tiago, but I don't think it'll really matter. Mitchell's stand up not that good. I think Tiago can outstrike him on the feet, use his range if he has to. I think he can get him down. I think on the ground, there's not a lot of welterweights that I would particularly pick if their best weapon is grappling with Paulo Tiago. Paulo Tiago, unanimous decision because Mitchell's, to my knowledge, never been finished. I believe his only loss was, of course, his UFC debut. Yes, to TJ Walderberger. And I see this being just him getting out grappled at every turn and Tiago taking unanimous decision. On to the televised portion of the card on Spike TV, Sportsnet, UFC.tv, etc. That was the Facebook part of the card that I just covered. Rousimar Paul Harris versus Dan Miller. Dan Miller's advantage in this fight might be the stand-up. His best bet might be a sprawl and brawl. The thing is, I don't think he'll be able to do it, but I see this kind of being like the Paul Harris-Jeremy Horn fight in the sense that Paul Harris will put Miller in trouble, but be just a little bit short on finishing him. Paul Harris is, a very underrated wrestler, and I don't see Dan Miller keeping this standing. I mean, Dan Harrison couldn't keep it standing the whole time, and he's a much better wrestler than Dan Miller is. I see Paul Harris getting this to the ground enough to basically win the battle there. Miller might get the slight edge in the stand-up, but Miller's stand-up is not great either. So you can have a decision for Paul Harris just because Miller is a tough guy to finish. And like I said, it's kind of like the Jeremy Horn fight. Thiago Tavares versus Spencer Fisher. Generally speaking, I would go very much against Spencer Fisher at this point. He's really in the downturn of his career. Let me pull up his Wikipedia page real quick. He's, of course, lost to Ross Pearson, beat Kurt Warburton, lost to Des Seaver, lost to Spencer to Joe Stevenson. That really is all that you need to know about him, to be honest. But the issue with Tavares is that I have no real faith at this point in Tavares' chin. Combination of the Matt Wyman fight and also the Shane Roller fight makes me think if you can hit him with a good shot, you can take him out. And yeah, that's the thing, is if Spencer Fisher still has one thing, it's the ability to connect with someone's chin and put them down. As a result, going for Spencer Fisher with a second round knockout or TKO, but I'm predicting the first round will look very good for Tavares. So kind of a repeat of the Matt Wyman fight. On to the main card, Louis Kane versus Stanislav Nedkov, giving Nedkov a slight advantage, but I am very, very concerned about the fact that he's very ring rusty. Kane's looked pretty good against wrestlers in the past, but I think Nedkov's a step above any wrestler he's fought. I think Nedkov can take him down and control him to a unanimous decision, but it's going to depend a lot on how he looks at the weigh-ins, if he looks ready to fight. And we'll know pretty quick, I think, in this fight whether he is. Ross Pearson versus Edson Barbosa. Ross Pearson's looked good lately, obviously. He's earned himself a main event card. Barbosa has been... I was a little disappointed by how, I want to say, non-committal he was in the fight with Anthony Njokuani. He wasn't quite that aggressive monster, which makes me think, you know, a couple times about maybe picking Pearson, because Pearson's a very well-rounded guy, has good stand-up. But then when I look at Pearson's record against, you know, taller fighters, guys who, you know, have good striking and are a little taller, I'll throw out a couple of examples here, like a Cole Miller, you know, even an Andre Miller to a certain extent, or Kurt Warburton, they gave him a lot of troubles, and they're not strikers anywhere near the level of Barbosa. As a result, I think Barbosa, you know, will use his reach and kind of throw Pearson off. Pearson's a guy who does very well against like shorter strikers, a la Spencer Fisher, who I mentioned earlier, Des Seaver, who's been mentioned a couple times. His name's coming up a lot, despite the fact not even being on the card. But I take Edson Barbosa probably by unanimous decision. I only take him by unanimous decision because he didn't seem to go in for the kill on Njokuani. I think that might be the same case here with Pearson. Brendan Schaub versus Big Nog Nogueira. Old Nogueira would beat a guy like Brendan Schaub. And people are going to say, well, probably was never all that good. No. This is called, man's been in the wars a lot and has, you know, seen his body go to shit. At this point, he just doesn't have the speed, doesn't have the athleticism to keep up with Schaub, and probably doesn't have the chin. As a result, I'm going to have to go, as much as I don't like to, because I'm really not a Schaub fan, I'm going to go Schaub by unanimous decision. A lot of people are picking a stoppage, but I think that this looks a tad like the Gonzaga fight, and that Schaub is going to play a little bit safe. That being said, maybe he doesn't, because he's in Brazil, and how do you beat Nog on a decision in Brazil? That's the interesting thing, how that's going to work. All right, I'm going to revamp that pick. Brendan Schaub, third round TKO. That's what I'm going to go with. If Nog wins, it'll be by, you know, Schaub hurting him, and then he finishes him. By that I mean, like, Nog catches him in, like, a triangle or something. Mauricio Shogun Rua Forrest Griffin in the rematch. I see it being kind of a lot like the first fight, only without the Shogun gassing horrendously, being on one leg part. And people are going to be like, oh, you're making excuses for the guy. Yeah, in a way I am. That being said, he had a really bad knee, and it's not really an excuse when you can document the injury, and it is of that serious nature. Fighters don't go in 100%, but fighters generally don't go in on one leg, is all I have to say on that matter. Now, the fact that he keeps injuring his leg, I mean, that's a bad sign. That's something that's not an excuse forever. It becomes a reason to retire after a while. But As it stands, Shogun wants to keep fighting. He says he's healthy this time around. We'll see. Healthy Shogun, or close to healthy Shogun. Probably unanimous decision over Forrest Griffin. Forrest is a tough bastard, would be basically the point. And here's the thing I don't get. People are like going on about how this is the end for Forrest and so on, and I don't get it. Like, people are like ignoring that he hasn't lost since the Anderson Silva fight. He's won 2 in a row. This isn't his last fight, win or lose, but whatever. I don't know how many people have been saying that, but it seems to be just something I keep hearing a lot of, that like Forrest is done. Next up, Anderson Silva, Yushin Okami. People are quick to dismiss that Okami, beat him and blah, blah, blah. Granted, it's not a good win, but it is something that plays a mental factor, I think, for Okami a little bit, or should. It's, I got him down, and he felt the need to break the rules. And when you look at that fight, people are like, oh, that looked like a... No, it wasn't. And people are like, well, he knocked him out with it. He didn't knock him out as much as you get hit with a kick you're not expecting, and it sends you for a loop. I mean, case in point would be actually going back to tough. Something there we've probably seen, Cole Miller versus Joe Lozon. Wasn't much of a hammer fist to the back of the head of Lozon, or to Miller. But Miller didn't see it coming, elected to fight, ended up getting crushed. And this is kind of one of those things where sometimes manning it up and going through an injury isn't the best idea. That being said, how much is that fight worth? Well, Anderson Silva outstruck Okami handily. Okami's a better fighter than he was. Anderson's also a better fighter than he was, but I think, ironically, Okami's the one who's improved more from his previous mark. He's picked up a considerable amount of better stand-up. His wrestling's greatly improved. He's gotten a lot stronger. You look at just physically, he looks like a very different fighter. Anderson, he's gotten better at all aspects of his game. He's obviously going to be better on the feet. He's very good off his back. I think Okami will put him there a couple times, but I do see Anderson Silva picking up the win here. I just think people are really selling Okami very short, and it confuses me because people were talking up Belfort in Silva's last fight, and then they want to completely disregard the guy who's the right style to beat Anderson Silva, and has that history of winning against him, and I don't really understand that. I don't really get it. He's also trailing with Chael Sonnen, who was the guy who showed you how you beat Silva, and people are gonna go, oh, the broken reed, bro. Silva has historically always had weak wrestling. I mean, it's a matter of catching him. He has very good footwork, very good at staying out of your shot range. But if you can get a hold of him, he's not that hard to take down. Still going with Silva. Method is a little unclear. I mean, Okami's hard to submit. Okami's also hard to knock out. But I'm going to go with Silva via knockout. I mean, he's a guy who's hurt people that we didn't think it was possible to hurt. A la Dan Henderson. Didn't knock him out, but of course hurt him really badly on the feet. I'm going to say third round. Third round TKO Anderson Silva. That's my predictions for UFC 134. Enjoy it.